Hi, welcome to the first episode of the BrainFit show. This is the show where we talk about all things brain fitness, address some of the biggest myths surrounding the human brain, and help you in your quest to build the best learning brains. So joining me today, Ian, I'm my co-host Ellie,
Hi, Ian.
and BrainFit's founder and director, Cheryl.
Hello, Ian. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hello. So, since it's the first episode, maybe let's give our audience a brief introduction about ourselves.
You can start.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'm Ian. So prior to working at BrainFit, I had a bachelor in psychology and also spent some time working in one-to-one tuition settings, working with primary school level kids. Also worked a little bit in the legal industry for a bit. And then that was when I decided I needed a change of pace. So that's when I came to BrainFit. And yeah, that's what I've been saying. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. So for me, I also graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. I've worked with hundreds of students with different various strengths and variances. All right. What about you, Cheryl?
For me, I have a master's degree in pediatric physiotherapy. So being a physio, you think about movement and muscles and bones. So I was attached in a very interesting lab in the university, and it was studying the relationship between movement and learning. So how we were using exercises to actually impact math grades, for example. So then I came back to Singapore and I started working at KK Hospital. I was a scholar with them. And that started my work with the brain. My very early posting was actually into the infant ICU. So that was my very, very first posting as a fresh grad. And our department, we had to look after two major organs. Number one was the lungs. A lot of the babies, needed machines to help them to breathe. And the other organ was the brain. So we were asking a lot of questions at that time, whether the ICU environment was too loud or too bright for these especially prematurely born babies, or maybe they were understimulated because they were just lying there 24/7 waiting to put on weight to go home. So that's my background. And I'm a mom, a proud mom of two girls, and it's important because I have my own very precious assets, brain assets that I am nurturing.
You mentioned just now a little bit about you were working previously finding out how movement affects learning.
Yes, it's fascinating, isn't it? How we move actually.
This is quite different from what we usually do. I mean, back when we were kids as well in primary school, it was not
you're told not to move.
Yeah.
Or you think that movement is for sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can have another episode for that, Ian.
Okay.
That's a whole, nice, interesting topic where we learn about how the body is so much connected to the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to talk about today as the first episode?
I think we talked about the brain-based approach, right? Or what is the brain-based approach, right?
Yeah.
How about the expert? Why don't you
What is
explain to
a
us
brain-based approach? Why don't you guys define first? Quick definitions.
Well, I think that the brain-based approach is about the external environment and the internal environment, and really about understanding deeply how the internal environment of a child will, affect the way they perform in any sports, academics, whichever skill
so
you want to
it's
hone.
basically more than just, example, for learning math, just teaching math. It's about working on all the different skills that, are to do with math, the 5 brain pillars that we will talk about later. All right. So, yeah.
My definition, I'm a mom. I'm going to use that perspective, okay? So as a mom, I have 2 girls. We want learning, right? We want good grades. We want them to enjoy school. So what do? I think we spend a lot of time and effort and energy and maybe money hunting for the best school. Maybe we move near to the school within 1 kilometer so that we can get into that. We will hunt for the best tuition teachers. I spend hours at Popular looking at all the assessment books. There's so many choices. What is the best one for my child? So I think by your definition of the internal and external environment, so this would be everything that are important, but that relates to the child's external environment. So it's not that they're not important. We definitely need good teachers, good materials, right? But they are the outside, So I think when we talk about a brain-based approach, the way I think about it is the other part of the equation, the inside, the building blocks, as we kind of say it, right? Do you have then the abilities or the skills, the inside skills that we don't see, right? But do you have them to actually benefit from this wonderful external environment that parents have painstakingly, gone around to set up for them? So that's my definition.
So, I guess to summarize, brain-based approach, it's sort of finding the best of both worlds of your internal environment. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is the skills that we cannot see so much within a child, like their, let's say, working memory, focus, attention, stuff like that, but also the external environment where it's like this, like
Yeah.
the external environment, whether there's a lot of distractions around, how well their teachers and whatnot.
Correct. I mean, and it's really about how the brain learns, right? So if the brain learns better with a plant in the environment, let's say, then we put a plant there. So it's really understanding learning from the biological aspect, from that perspective. Right, and then engineering, building all the internal skill sets that are needed, and then making sure that the external environment or the strategies or the way we're teaching them gels with how the brain naturally learns best.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like that analogy, right, of an iceberg, right? At the bottom of the iceberg, you can't see all those layers,
Absolutely.
but they absolutely will influence the top.
Yeah, that's a
tip of the
really good
iceberg.
example.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So I think just to give an example, so as we mentioned earlier, I did have a bit of experience in some informal tuition before. So one very common problem I saw, at least in my time in this tuition, was that kids not necessarily will have trouble learning, but let's say they're doing math, so they'll learn fractions one week, and then they'll forget it, and then the next week they have to learn, let's say, multiplication and division. And then, okay, all good so far. And then the next week, not only do you forget your multiplication and division, now you've forgotten your fractions too. So it's about trying to find this balance between teaching old and new things, So, like, let's just say, to give an analogy as well, it's like a box with a lot of holes inside, right? No
Yes,
matter
a leaking-
how much you teach, it just leaks out. So teaching and learning, it did not connect.
Yes, and I think I think that's a big myth, right? People think that when you teach, then you will learn, but that's not true. I mean, teaching is really me communicating knowledge and information to you, right? So it's me using visuals, using my voice, showing you books, right? I'm trying to teach you new information. But learning is really the child. I mean, the learner. It could be an adult learner, but that biological organ, which is the brain, that is trying to absorb this kind of information that you're trying to communicate. So it's not a natural process that once you teach that I will learn. I think that's where we need clarification there as well.
Yeah, I think I have my own personal experience as well, right? I have tutored my younger brothers as they were growing up because, my parents saw me as one that was more academically inclined. So
Model student.
So I had to take up the role of tutoring them at home, right? So I would always think from a teacher point of view, like, okay, I'm teaching you this material and I think I've done well, but why are you not remembering all this? Why? I deemed them as lazy. They didn't want to, step up and maybe revise a bit more to retain the information. But no matter how many times I think they've tried, it's just really difficult to remember information.
But let me tell you, as a parent, the common thoughts that come, you're lazy, you're not focusing, you're just not trying hard enough.
Yes.
But we know that actually is not true, right? I mean, if the internal environment doesn't allow, I can try my best, but the best is just not good enough. Or I am not trying to slack, but I just do not have the muscles, the brain muscles, not the physical muscles.
It's like asking a marathon, asking someone who's untrained to run a marathon almost, right? It's like,
and I'm not excited about it. And then you say, why are you so lazy?
exactly, like I'm trying my best, I can run 5 kilometers, but that's it, right?
Yeah, but that's not good enough. You got to be doing the marathon. So it's all these. But I think the issue is not that parents or I think adults, even us, right, that we want to deliberately do that. It's a lack of understanding, isn't it? I mean, like you, Ellie, right? When you were teaching your brother, you felt that he was lazy.
Yes.
Right? But I think if you have the perspective and understanding of the brain and how it works and what learning needs.
Yeah, I think I would probably change the way I deliver the material.
Yeah.
Find out what were his strengths and weaknesses in terms of learning, right? What were his learning patterns, right? So then I would accommodate to that, and also, try out different techniques or different strategies on how to work on his short-term memory.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one story actually is quite heartbreaking. A little 5-year-old child that I was working with. And I remember I was saying that, you did so well. I can see that you were trying your best. And he was really putting in good effort. And then he turned to me with these bright eyes. And then he was saying, can you tell my mom that I tried my best? I said, yes, of course. Why? He said that because every time I try my best, my mother doesn't believe that I've tried my best. Right? It's really heartbreaking. And I think this is because we don't have the understanding of how learning is actually happen. When we have natural expectations that when I teach, you must learn, or you will learn, and when I teach, you do not forget, right? Which are actually unfair expectations if you truly understand this organ and how it works. So it's heartbreaking. And I guess this is one of the purpose of our show, yeah?
So as you were mentioning just now, it's a bit about helping parents set realistic expectations, but also learning more about their children. So you were mentioning, right, your younger brothers, if you could go back and teach them again, you would adapt your approach to suit them better.
Yeah.
So that's
and over the years, working at BrainFit and seeing all the different learning patterns the students have, and having our targeted exercises, I've really seen firsthand how they have benefited in working on their skills and how they've been performing in their academics now. So it's been very heartwarming to see all the improvements.
And the other one point I just want to bring out about brain-based learning, I think this is a message of hope for parents. Sometimes we think that, my child is, it's like the child doesn't like sports, right? So he's not the sports guy, or I'm not the book person. I hear that a lot, a parent saying to me, right? My child is not the book kind of girl or boy. But if you understand what are the ingredients, what are the internals, the foundation blocks or cognitive skills of brain fitness, all this jargon that we use, right? But really the internal environment, what are the skill sets and support structures that are needed to help a child enjoy learning, right? You can technically change that character. So it's not constructive, I think, to box the children up into like, forever you will not be a book person. So I think these are some of the myths that maybe we want to correct as well, right? Because if you understand the brain and you can then do targeted exercises, as you talked about, Ellie, and for the child to correct this basic pattern, and then reading could be enjoyable and the child might be transformed. And these are real, I honestly did have a conversation with a mom and she called me and she was alarmed. She was actually saying, what did you guys do? Did you counsel my child? I said, no, what happened? She said that, my girl, she's not a book person. And now, for the last week, she cannot put down a book to have lunch. She just cannot believe it, right? I mean, this is not miracle or, like airy fairy stuff. This is just really identifying what's needed for the task, right? To read, you need visual processing, auditory processing. I mean, we can go into that in greater detail
in future episodes.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
But, once you correct that, then yes, personality can change. I think that's a message of hope I want to communicate to all parents.
And also, I think we'll be talking a bit about motivation as well in a future episode. So we did mention just now about maybe my child is trying his best and, maybe the best is still not enough. But on the flip side, you also have children who, let's say, are more academically inclined, and yet because they're academically inclined, they get used to, putting in less effort. So it's also helping parents understand. So for these children, how do you actually know they're putting in their best as well, right? So we got the flip side. Like when my child is putting in the best, how can I help them improve? How can I be more encouraging? And also for the children who are already very smart, let's say, how can I motivate them, to actually put their brains to use?
Yeah, I think Ian is talking about himself. He is academically inclined and smart student, by the way.
Yeah, I think to add on to
school.
that, right? I think with you, I think you're a more math person as well. With me, I think I really enjoyed math growing up. So when you tend to have the good skill sets for you, would have the strong muscles to do well in that particular subject, you want to do it again. So when you do it again, the repetition makes you even better at the subject, right? So I think when it comes to other children, they will find that, why am I working twice as hard to be good in this subject? Whereas some people who have already developed that strong visual muscles for math, they will be working hard on it because they enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it brings to mind, I don't like math, by the way, different category, right? I used to wonder, I mean, I was a good student, one of the top students all the way until JC. In JC, I failed my first subject. It was physics. I was struggling with math as well. And I could not understand why. For the very first time when I was in JC, I actually wondered maybe I'm not that smart. Because I was aiming to get a scholarship, which I eventually did, but at that time when I had the first failure, I really thought, what is wrong with me? I guess that's where my intelligence stops. But of course, now that I'm in this field, we have the cognitive map and assessment, that helps everybody to find out their own profile. I am not a visual person. That's the reason why math and physics was so difficult for me at that point. I mean, I had enough visual skills to last me, but until JP, right? So I think understanding and knowledge of yourself, how the brain works, is really powerful. It can really add a very constructive layer into the actions that we take then, rather than having those words that are not useful, like, oh, am I not smart? Oh, it's just useless. I'm just not good. I'm done. That kind of communication.
I think it really reminds me of how, like, when you enter a gym, right? And then you go to the gym instructor, they get a whole map of your body, BMI and all that, and they craft a whole tailored exercises to help work on those areas that you want to work on.
That is such a good example. Yeah. So, but why are we not doing it for the brain? We should.
Yeah, we should, and we are at BrainFit.
That's right. That will be another episode, Yen. We have to note down all these ideas.
Yes.
And of course, if anybody have any questions,
And of course, feel free to send them in. We are more than happy to talk about any topics that are not already on our list.
I have heard of so many questions. My older child likes math. My younger child hates math. I feed them with the same food at home. We have the same environment. Why did they turn up so differently? So many questions that once you understand the internal environment, right, and how our brain functions and works, I think it really helps to help parents or people who work with, ourselves understand, that's why.
I think we'll also break down certain helpful strategies for parents to help their child, those who are struggling with all these different skills.
So apart from all the questions we talked about, so maybe parents have their own questions that they want to send in as well. Where can they do so?
Well, you can send in your questions to our website, brainfit.com.sg, or email us at info@brainfit.com.sg, or follow us on our social medias, right? We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and...
You can call or WhatsApp us, 67373511.
Right, and if you didn't catch any of that, just Google BrainFit. I'm sure it'll be there somewhere, right? Okay, so thank you very much for listening once again, and join us next time in our quest to help you build the
best
learning
brain.
Bye-bye.